Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Wassalam ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala. So thank you very much for attending the session. As people develop through their lifetime, they have an expectation that a time will come when they'll be able to retire. Some of us may have an opportunity to accumulate wealth without using pension schemes, perhaps through their business ventures or other assets. But most people may not have that privilege, and they will have to accumulate their retirement wealth in some form of pension scheme or retirement savings plan. This is why the issue of pension has become a pertinent topic in the minds of many working individuals. In our region alone, the retirement benefit scheme industry has significantly grown over the past 10 years to above 1.5 trillion. This is a statistics for 2021. As a result of factors such as government legislations to support savings, creating retirement benefit schemes amongst the citizens by RBA and industry players, as well as improved management of schemes in Kenya, among many other factors. Despite that, significant number of population are not in any retirement savings plan, mainly due to other factors. And one of the main factors is the absence of a halal pension plan, where the beneficiaries are guaranteed on halal investments to place their retirement wealth. This is a genuine concern which needs to be addressed by the stakeholders in the industry. We believe that our Sharia scholars and experts need to provide guidance on how such funds can be structured and create a fund where this significant group of population will be able to have a retirement plan and not compromise on their beliefs. Having said that, there is need to spur this conversation. And one of the ways to do that is by having halal pension sensitization programs, which will keep the public informed on the need to have a halal pension structure to safeguard our retirement plans by the will of Allah. It is for this reason that Gulf African Bank has partnered with Al-Abrar Consultancy to organize for this session, to enlighten our audience on the benefits of a halal pension plan, its features, and all important matters that pertain to this issue. We really appreciate the numerous questions we have received from you on this topic, and we have shared it with our speaker, who will try and address some of them during this presentation. We shall then have a small Q&A session after the presentation to address questions which may not have been answered and any other which may come up after the presentation. Without further ado, allow me to invite our speaker in this webinar, Mr. Khalfan Abdullah Salim. Sheikh Khalfan is a halal business and Islamic financial services advisor. He is also a wealth management and Islamic finance expert who has numerous years of experience in the field. He is also a zakat expert and has wide experience in the field of personal Islamic financial planning, including Islamic retirement.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I hope I'm audible. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. As-salatu was-salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi. Amma ba'd. Dear participants, I audible or there are some... Okay, that's good. It shows that I am. So first and foremost, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may peace and blessings be to our beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I want to also thank the bank, Gulf African Bank, for inviting me to spark the conversation on Islamic pension plans. More importantly, to thank you, our beloved participant, who have taken time to register, share your questions, as well as as well as making time to be here this morning. So the topic before you is Islamic pension. All right, that's good. As I said earlier, this is the session is to spark a conversation. So what I'm going to share with you is around these four major issues, and then we'll respond to your questions and also take a live questions and move it as such. We are looking to cover this within a period of 1 hour or with some few additional minutes. So after highlighting the content of today's session, I would like us to start with this prayer um, that it has been reported by Aisha radiallahu anha that the Prophet among his prayers used to say, Allahumma ij'al awsa'a rizqika alayya inda kibari sinni wa inqita'a umri. That our messenger used to pray that, oh God, make your widest livelihood over me when I grow old. So if there is one thing that we can take out from this beautiful dua is that of realization that when we grow old, we still needs to cater for expenses. We have some expenditures still that we need to meet. And in that regard, though it is an old age moment, we are weak to work. So the key thing here is not to pray, not to be old, because you can stop um, that progression. But the key thing that the messenger is trying to tell us is to pray for widest livelihood, to have awsa' rizq, to have abundant of risk, beneficial things. Because risk in Islam, as we know, is not confined to only money, but anything beneficial that human needs and is halal is risk. So this is an important dua that I chose. We open up, and again, it opens this conversation that realizing that we grow old, then the key thing is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you awsa' rizq. But besides granting, asking Allah to grant you awsa' rizq, as it is said, you have to help yourself as well. You have to do certain things for yourselves and seek Allah's help to help you plan and also grant you tawfiq in your plans. With that prayer, it takes me to a quotation. Um, One guy, as you can see his name, is saying that a true failure is not just having any money over a fixed period of time. It is not having any money over 30 years. But a true failure is having nothing left when you are still alive. So this is in the perspective of financial perspective. As we know, we are Muslims. A true failure is not about having not having money. A true failure is perhaps not having a proper faith, aqidah, and not having good deeds. But that's a spiritual angle of it. But when it comes to financials, we see as well there is another reality in our lives, which we need financial resources in order to cater for several expenses. So taking this quote in that perspective, the financial perspective, we need to think about these words here, that the true failure is is actually going to be having nothing left and when you are still alive. In the field of retirement, we call this longevity risk. You have lived longer compared to your means to support your life. So, to avoid this or to mitigate this failure, we need to think about certain things that we can do together with the prayer that we ask Allah to help us, but we need to do certain things ourselves. So, this takes me to another point, which is retire but not tired. So, before looking into the subject of pension, it's good to understand its broader context, which is retirement. Okay. Do we retire and tired, or do we retire but not tired? So the term retire, from a Latin word meaning withdrawing, retreat from something. In a modern sense, when we say retirement or I'm retiring, it refers to a voluntary, you have chosen to stop working, or it can be involuntary. As you know, there is a mandatory retirement age if you have reached 60 years. For case of Kenya and many other countries, you are asked to leave. Even if you are not tired, you're asked to leave because that's the retirement age. So retiring refers to voluntary. You choose it, but sometimes it is involuntary act of ending one's working career or withdrawing from a particular activity. This is what it means. So you can retire when you're tired, but you can also retire when you're not tired. Now, retirement, is it a accepted reality or is it an ignored reality? Well, if we look at the Quran, we get some implication that retirement is a reality. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yasin, وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرُهُ نُنَكِّسُهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. And whoever we cause to live long, we may also reverse him in nature, so that he returns to weakness after strength, to ignorance after knowledge, to forgetting after remembering. So will they not reason or take heed? Are we not taking this reality into consideration? Are we giving this fact it is due attention? So we start an infant, we get younger, we get old. And we get old in the real sense of the word old, not in the way we men tend to joke around saying that I'm old by age but strong, okay, but youth by desires. Okay, we get old by age and even strength and so on. So, do we take into consideration this reality and plan accordingly? Or we simply let the things go as they are? Another verse we are reminded that Allahu alladhi khalaqakum min ضعف ثم جعل من بعد ضعف قوة ثم جعل من بعد قوة ضعفا وشيبة يخلق ما يشاء وهو العليم القدير. Another reality Allah is presenting to us that, hey guys, human being, I have created you in a state of weakness. Then He created us, gave us strength after the weakness, then created weakness and old age after strength. He creates what He wills, and Allah is knowing and powerful. So the message here I want you to take is retirement is a reality. Whether you choose it or you don't choose it, you will get old to the extent you are not able to work, to earn the salary that you're earning, to go to farm, to go to shop. This will come to an end if you live long enough. And we have people around us. We see this. I know a famous billionaire here in Kenya. I don't want to mention a name, but he has successful business and he's in his 95 years of age. He's no longer going to any of these supermarkets, any of the offices. He is locked inside. He's inside his room, just doing exercises here and there. Okay. But again, expenses are around him. He has to eat, he has to cut off for medical expenses, he has to repair his house, etc., etc. But he's no longer capable to go to work or to move around as he wishes. So, retirement in perspective. When it comes to retirement, people have different ways to look at it. Some people think retirement is that moment between rest, between work and death. The moment after you have worked in your 60 years, 70 years, now is that moment you wait for your death as a retirement. Some people think that way. Some consider retirement, it is that moment, is the reward for a long working life. You have worked for 60, 40 years, 50 years. Now is the moment for you to relax. No longer working, but you are able to meet your livelihoods. You have no money problems. To some, it's a period of leisure, and we see this especially from the Western Hemisphere. Um, People have worked for so many years, they've retired, they now move around the world. You see old people in 70s, 60s going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Say, what happened with you? What is going on? It's now the period of leisure. He was working and he worked so much. Now is the time for him to move around. But you cannot be able to move around if you didn't have a plan to enable you fund those trips, those kind of things you wanted to do for leisure. To others is an opportunity to do new and exciting things that you can only dream about doing when you are working. We know jobs takes us from 8 to 5, little time to do other things. And those who are doing businesses, again, even if your business, it could be even much worse. You start at 8, it might end even at 8 in the night. Okay. So it could be a retirement is that moment of now I'm leaving my business to other people to run it. I'm going to do other things. So when it comes to retirement, it is connected with work. And when it comes to philosophy uh, uh, that people have with regards to work, for us Muslim, we consider work as ibadah. It's a way to gain your halal earnings and support you and support your family, etc. And Allah is pleased with the person who does that with the good intentions, and he does uh, good things, good work. But to other, they consider work is a burden. Is a burden. Just Monday when it arrives, he considers it now the toughest day has begun. Toughest day of the week has begun. And to others, is a necessary evil. It's good to avoid it. So even if they go to work, they do as little as they can. As I said, for Muslims, you belong to the category of considering it ibadah. You do your best. You hope to get hasanatan fi dunya. You get your salary or your profits here in the world, but also you expect Allah to reward you for the good work that you do for others. So for a Muslim who consider this as an ibadah, he might think that he doesn't have to retire, because how do you retire from an ibadah? But again, yes, you might not retire voluntarily, but there is always a component of involuntary. You have reached the 60 years, nobody wants to hire you. You are shown a door to go. Or you have reached the 60 years, but you are sick. You have medical issues. You can no longer work. So whether you choose to retire or not to retire, there could be different factors that influence this. So ideally, would say a Muslim will, with the right philosophy that work is ibadah, he will do his best to work if all conditions allows, because he knows by working he earns uh, Allah's pleasures and so on. Again, as I said, you will grow old, you will get sick, and again, you will have to slow down and things like that. So the question here is retirement now, to plan or not to plan. I'd like you to drop in your chat your view on this question. So tell us what you think. Should you plan for retirement? If it is yes, just drop on the chat yes. If it is no, drop no, and you can tell us as well why you think it is no. But as you do share in the chat, let me continue, and we'll get back to your feedback. But please do share with us. Do you think you need to plan for retirement? Yes or no? So here is anyway a thought around it. You can't work forever anyway. You can't work forever. If you live long, you get weak, you get some sicknesses. So is another certainty. They say there are two certainties in life, to pay taxes and death, but there is also another certainty if you live longer, which you can't work, to reach a moment where you can't work. And we have people around us that we see, our old, our fathers, our mothers, our grandfathers, and so on. We see their condition they are. They want to work, but they can't because of the state they are in. So I believe most of you would think that it's good to plan for retirement. So if that is so, then what is retirement planning? So it's a process of setting a retirement income goal. Mind you, is a process which has a step 1 to step Z, or step 1 to 10, of setting up the retirement income goal as to arrive to how much you want to be earning, even if you are not going to work or you're not going to open your shop. There's a process of setting up that and putting in plans, that is action plans necessary to achieve that income goal. This is what we call it a retirement planning. So it's a process of arriving to the level of income that you think is good enough for you to make when you're no longer working. And after setting up that income goal, now to put in plans that will make you realize that goal. The global outlook on retirement. There's so many reports that have documented surveys around the world as to how people perceive or look at this issue of retirement. Shockingly, retirement is not the main saving priority for 85% of working age people. We young people in our 20s, in our 30s, in our 40s, we tend to ignore this fact that we're going to grow old, or we're going to get sick during our productive years that make us live to work. May God forbid you might have been admitted to hospital for long-term care, cancer, or other diseases. May Allah protect us from all this. So retirement is not the main saving priority for many of people. Even yourself, ask yourself, is it part of your priority? Have you been giving thought about this issue of retiring? How will you be making money when you are no longer able to work? And what are your plans to be making those monies when you are no longer working? So here in Kenya, there was a survey that was done in 2019, okay, as to what are the goals, the financial goals that people have here. So here you can see again, okay, people have financial goals to retire early, financial goals to leave an inheritance to their kids. They have a financial goal of educating their kids, pay their bills. But you can also see that a good number of Kenyans have this goal of saving for retirement years and also to be financially independent. But the tricky part is, though Kenyans have this idea to save for retirement, the numbers as well shows a different picture. Most of the people plan to work until retirement age. 29% plan never to retire, but work their whole life. Some have a retirement in mind, but they think a business will be the plan of action to fund their retirement. 39% think that their children's are their retirement package. The children will take care of me. However, though we tend to think about retirement, but very few of us really prepare for retirement. So 29% are prepared for retirement. And very few know how much money they plan to retire with. This is a survey that was done, and you can get it from uh, Association of Kenya's Insurers. Full document documenting wide range of findings around retirement. Another report, however, shows, this was published by Zamara maybe 3 years ago. They say that only 7% are likely to retire with enough money to achieve their goals. Now, again, as we have seen in the previous slide, most of Kenyans, or some Kenyans, a portion of Kenyans think that children's are their retirement package. It could be, especially in a Muslim setting, is expected to be that children to support their parents, but it comes with the limitations. Let's face it. So children's are not a realistic retirement plan. Okay, so the good thing is to take personal responsibility, plan yourself early, and let your children support you or add to that plan that you have, rather than living totally depending on your kids. My personal experience is I have a father in 70 years, and he still goes to open his shop, even though we are also there to cater for everything that he needs, but he still says, you have families. You have to support your families as well. But your children are also vulnerable to losing jobs. We are vulnerable, they are vulnerable to economic hardship as well. So you can't be sure that your children will be having adequate means to support you throughout your non-working life. The good thing is you plan, and your children, if they are righteous, they will adapt to your plan. Or the good thing actually would be, and what if you plan even to take care of your children's and grandchildren's and grandchildren's? I've seen people in my advisory role as a personal finance advisor, people who are thinking for the future of their grandchildren's. So somebody I was talking to was buying plots of land in Dar es Salaam, 20 plots of lands, millions of money. And he's in 80s. I asked him, why are you buying this? What for? He says, it's not for me. It's not for my children's because I've educated my children's. They are all taking care for themselves. I'm buying these lands because I see in future land will be scarce, and I'm buying these lands for my grandchildren's to have a place to build their homes or a saving package for them. You never know. We are better in a better times, maybe compared to their time. So I'm planning for something for them. It's a good way because it's khair. You are planning to do khair, not just for your kids, to grandchildren and grandchildren. There's nothing wrong with that. It is actually encouraged for us to al-yadul ulya khairun wa habbu ilallah. The upper hand is better than the lower hands. Even if you're getting it from your son or from your daughter, but if you are the one giving, it's better than if you're the one receiving. So 21st century realities, longevity risk. Okay. Some people live longer, of course, some dies, and this is well documented in the Quran. Some are kids, they die. Everyone will die. Allah knows when. But there is also a reality of living longer. How are you preparing about that? Data shows that people are living longer between male and females. We see numbers in varieties of surveys. The challenge, though, that comes with that is if we are pensionable, we had registered in pension funds, those pensions sometimes, and actually most of the times, they pay less than what we need. So say you need 10,000 for your monthly living expenses, but you get only 6,000 or 4,000 from your pension, which is far less from what you need. These are realities. Okay, so in Kenya, for example, according to some studies, it shows that income replacement ratio is 34% in Kenya, unknown in Tanzania and in Uganda. Income replacement ratio means that if you are taking home now 100,000, when you retire, you are likely to only get 34,000. If you are lucky, by the way, if you are lucky even here in Kenya. But this is just to illustrate, okay, to give you an illustration of what this statement says. You will be lucky to get 34. In developed countries, or ideally, as we shall see in other slide, is you get an income replacement ratio of 70 to 80%. That's the best you need to have. Okay, but the reality is 34%, according to this data. So we have needs even when we retire. You have a home that will need repairs, maintenance, or rent to be paid. You have basic healthcare coverage. You will fall sick. You need to go to hospital. That needs money. You have food and groceries that you need to cater for. So expenses will always be there. They're certain. You have bills to pay, but do you have the money? That's a big issue, of which we are sparking a debate or a conversation here for us to all think about how are we planning to fund these needs when we are no longer able to work. So some studies shows that you need at least 70% of what you are earning now to live comfortably when you retire. I know some of us are earning even something that we are not even happy with. I know that some are earning 50,000 we are not happy with. Some are earning 500,000 and they're not happy with. So whichever you are not happy with, okay, the data here shows that you need at least 70% of what you are not happy with in your retirement. At least you need that. I hope that point is very clear. So if 100 you're not happy with, that means you need to do something else to reach more income goals than what you are. But the bottom line here is you need at least 70% of what you earn to live comfortably in your retirement. So how will you fund your retirement? Studies across different countries shows different people plan differently or plan differently on how to fund their retirement. So here are studies in China and Malaysia. So you have one side, on the left side is China, on the right side is Malaysia. So what the Chinese do, they save. They mostly do cash saving. They save 50% of those interviewed. They are funding their retirement through cash savings. They save and bank very well for that. Also, they do personal. They join voluntary pension schemes. They also invest in stock and shares. That is business. They own businesses. They also participate in employer pension schemes. Okay? They also invest in governments, securities. Fortunately, here in Kenya, we don't have Sharia compliant ones, and we'll talk about that later, but this is the data from China. Others buying businesses, investing in Forex, etc. In Malaysia, property. They have additional property to earn rental income. They also do cash savings to earn them profit shares that support them to invest in businesses, in pensions, etc., etc. The question is, if you are in 40 years or in your 30 years, which will be your route to fund your retirement? What will you do to fund your retirement, to plan for your retirement? So here in Kenya, the survey shows that most of people, they plan to save, plan to use their savings to fund their retirement, personal savings. So we're closer to Chinese. Okay. But again, we are not in China. We are in Kenya. The rates that the saving paying, the rates that the saving is paid in China might not be the same as what we have here. The cost of living in China might not be. So don't be in a comfortable zone to think that since China is in an advanced economy, so if we are also saving just like the way Chinese save, then we are better off. There are a lot of other differences between us and China. So Kenya save in their preparations to fund retirements. Others, we have NSSF. We are contributing to NSSF, and others are depending on SSF, and others on employer provided schemes, and others they join a personal contribution pension scheme. Others in social groups, what you call vikundi, sio kundi. Others invest in farm, agricultures. Others are, again, depending on the children's. They invest in their children's for children to take care of them. And the other one, though is not seen here, is annuity plans, buy annuity plans. We'll explain what that is as we have a slide for it later on. So 53%, some studies shows that 53% of retirees say that start saving at an early age is the best financial advice they have ever received. If you are to you're planning for your retirement, one of your important action item in your plan is to save early and invest early for your retirement so that you can be able to get a good income when you retire. So here in Kenya and most countries, when it comes to retirement system, it is called a three-pillar model. You have Social Security, okay? We join Social Security, we contribute there. Now it depends. Some entities are totally contributing to NSSF and they don't have OPS, occupational pension schemes. Others, they contribute to NSSF a small amount, and then you find your employer has a staff retirement scheme. Those are called OPS, occupational pension schemes. And you can do more than that by having your personal savings for retirement. You save and invest that saving in order to generate income that will support you during retirement. Or others are actually joining what is called individual pension plans. This is voluntary. You join it. Others, they open business. Okay. So a pension, Islamic pension plans, is it a dream or reality? Well, from where I see it, is a reality. We have some Islamic pension plans here in Kenya, but also globally. There are some countries that have Islamic pension plans, pension systems that are Islamic. We know the conventionals are all over. The conventional pension plans are all over the world. Actually, it is recognized as one of the human rights to have social security. So all governments are establishing entities for social security. And in that regard, part of that is pensions, pension benefits, and so on. So in Malaysia, they had Islamic pensions since 2014. UK has Islamic self-invested personal pensions for a long time. Now, estimated demand for Islamic pension fund is estimated to be around 160 to 190 billion US dollar. There's a big demand, and there is limited supplier of companies, entities to provide Islamic pension solutions. This is a reality. Even here in Kenya, we only have 3. Kenya has only three, and I shall mention them towards the end of the presentation. So it is a reality. It's not a dream. But what is wrong with the existing conventional plans that are actually many more compared to Islamic ones here in Kenya? The problem with the many more conventional ones is, number one, they have structural shortfall and investment shortfall from the Sharia lens. Most of these conventional pension plans are structured in a riba way, in a riba-based contracts, and they involve gharar, uncertainty that has been prohibited in Sharia. When you look at the fund manager, the way he invested those savings that you contribute monthly, they invest in anything. Okay, they don't screen Sharia wise to see which stock, if they are buying, is of a business which is halal, or if or not. They invest in any business. So it involves even a sin sector, even gambling business, alcohol business, financial institutions. They buy shares of banks, of insurance companies listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, you name it. And for us, Muslim, we know those are sin sectors. We are not supposed to put our money to these kind of sectors for investment purposes. But the conventional ones, they only look at where they can maximize the returns for savers or for pensioners, and they totally ignore the religious aspects of some of us who are their members. And again, there is zakat, okay? And we shall talk about this. If there's zakat in pension or not. These guys or these conventionals, they don't care to advise you on zakat on your pension, nothing, okay? And they don't pay anything out of that. So what is the fatwa on conventional pensions? From my latest research on the subject is that compulsory pensions, like the OPP, occupational pension scheme, that we find them when we are employed. You get employed in a company, they have a scheme there, and it is compulsory in your contract. Is it compulsory that they will deduct certain amount of money and pay? So we say no sin on you is compulsory, but don't take more than what you contributed. When you retire, in that occupational pension scheme, you will have to take what you contributed and what your employer contributed, nothing more. Because as we said earlier, this there's a huge, and actually it's not a huge likelihood, it is. The fund manager who will be managing your funds will invest in anything, Sharia compliant and non-Sharia compliant. So since we're not so sure of whether they are investing in halal or non-halal, it's better to leave everything. But if you want to be rigorous, you can go into the nitty-gritties of where they invest and leave the prohibited income and take the halal income. Because honestly, as well, they sometimes also happens to invest in a halal stock, for example. Okay. Then they have government pension plans. Again, there's no sin on you. It's compulsory. You've been hired by the state organs. They have their own public service pension schemes. No sin to participate on you since it's compulsory. It's the rural. Okay. Again, here the Sharia scholars say since it's a government pension scheme, you can take whatever comes. But other scholars have a reservation to that because again, even the government pension schemes, they don't care to invest in a halal way. But there are fatwas that says you can take everything. But in my personal opinion, is better again to be on the side of precautions. So take what you contributed and what your employer contributed, and avoid other additional so-called income or interest that might have accumulated in your account. For voluntary pensions, the conventional pensions that are voluntary to join Sharia wise is not permissible since they are conventional. So do we have Islamic pensions in Kenya? Yes, we do. We do have two. CPF, Lab Trust, they have established a window that is called Salih Retirement Fund since 2018 for county employees and also for individual, voluntarily for individuals. So you can have your voluntary personal pension plan account with CPF Saleh also Lab Fund Amal. They started this since 2018, but there are only two. So you can see the supplier are limited, but the demand is bigger. Okay, and all of these operates on defined contribution schemes because that is the closest to Sharia compliance rather than defined benefit schemes. So this is an illustration as to the Amal, but you can check on the website of these two bodies. They have details as to this Sharia compliant division and what they offer and what are the requirements, etc., etc. Then annuity plans. There's another question on annuity plans. These annuity plans you buy from an insurance company. So the question is, can a Muslim buy annuity plans or not buy? Because we know if you are in OPS, OPP, and on occupational pensions, when you retire, okay, from your employment, they give you your lump sum. They give you your money, okay, or you buy an annuity, which is a contract between you and an insurance company. And that insurance company, you pay them certain amount of money for a guaranteed certain amount of income that they will give you monthly or quarterly or semi-annually, etc. So are these annuity plans Sharia compliant? The answer is no. They are not Sharia compliant. Insurance annuity plans are not Sharia compliant. Okay, they provide a guaranteed returns. They are riba based. Even when it comes to investment, they invest mostly in treasury bonds in order to be able to make those income to share with you. Okay, they are offered by life insurance companies, and so as I said, not Sharia compliant. Do we have a takaful annuity plans? That's a challenge. We don't have. It's very hard to structure an annuity plan that is Sharia compliant, but the efforts ongoing. If there is a breakthrough, we will let you know. But this is a global challenge, not just in Kenya. So we are in a precarious situation that demands Muslims should consider carefully. Now, how do you plan yourself for retirement? So what are the options do you have beside the ones which I've mentioned? The Islamic pensions that we have here in Kenya is number one. Well, if you're a Muslim organization, make sure you offer an occupational pension scheme that is Sharia compliant, because that's an obligation for you as an employer to set something that is compliant for your employees. And the good thing with it is a Muslim and non-Muslim can be a member. Okay. And of course, the challenge will be in investing. That will be a challenge. But wherever there is a challenge, that is where you push the boundaries to find a solution. So we should not fear to take the first step just because we see barriers ahead of us. If we all avoid the foreseeable barriers, then we will look for solution for those barriers if we are all avoiding. So you be in the game, look for solution for those challenges, which I believe as day goes by, younger minds, innovative, creative minds will always come up with a solution if there is a demand for such a solution. So that's for employers, but you as an employee, okay, again, as I said, you can explore other options. Okay, you are already contributing to an SSF, say, contributing, say, to your employee retirement scheme, but maybe if you are still having disposable income, you can explore investing in Islamic funds. Okay, if they are available in your locality. Here in Kenya, we don't have, but we are likely to have very soon. There are some latest development that there are certain investment banks which are planning to come up with a Sharia fund or Sharia Islamic compliant fund. Read the news. Once it has been launched, you will hear about that. Then another one is considering establishing your own business very early. The problem we have with some of us is you are in 70s and then you want to start a certain business that you don't know about it, and that becomes very difficult. And also you need certain money to cut off your expenses. It's always better you start a business very early, and business like a human being, the way I say business are humans. Just like you grow, you start very young and then you grow slowly, slowly to be a very income generating human being. It takes you 25 years to be an income generating human being, 20 to 25 years. Okay. Now, what about the business? Some businesses, you are lucky, they make you money in 6 months. But there are other business requires ups and down. You going ups and down in that particular business. Some break evens in 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, etc., etc. So the early, the better. If you have a certain idea on a particular business, each business has its own cycle to break even. It is good for you to start early. Islamic SACCOs, yes, SACCOs here in Kenya, those which are managed well, they are money making. They make money for their members. Okay, so it's upon us to explore that options as to whether we can have our SACCO where we save and invest, save and invest, save and invest, and whatever profit that is generated goes to the members. Is doable. Investment in property, this has always been there, but again, are you gonna wait until you retire to buy an apartment to start leasing? That could be not a good idea. Why not doing it, starting it now? Okay, because properties again, they are exposed to different kind of risks. Okay, Islamic wealth management solutions, these are really in demand, but they are not very much available in our jurisdictions. So perhaps banks and other financial institutions, they need to explore solutions around that. Finally, on my side is the cut issue on pension. So we know there are mandatory pension plans and non-mandatory pension plans. So on the mandatory pension plans, majority of Muslim scholars consider that you are not eligible to pay zakat during the time of contribution, but you pay zakat upon receipt of the retirement package. So when you are 60 and now you are given your lump sum, okay, that is when now you become eligible to pay zakat, if at all the amount you have received as a lump sum is above the nisab, which is 85 gram of gold, equivalent in Kenya shillings. So that is for mandatory plans. These are mostly of us are in this kind of plans. But this is the majority of Muslims. Jurists, there are other Muslim scholars who still consider that whatever you have contributed, you need to know how much is there and pay your zakat, even if you don't have access to it. But this is a minority view. The majority view is that you have to have ownership of that funds. You have to have a complete ownership, milki tamma, for you to pay zakat on a particular wealth. So when you retire, you get your handshake, your money, okay, before you buy whatever, or you decide to do business or to do this or that, you have to pay 2.5% of that, give it to zakat. Zakat on non-mandatory plans. Okay, there's a consensus among Muslim jurists and Sharia scholars that for the ones that you have established voluntarily, of which we know you have an ownership. You know, when you open an individual pension plan with CPF Saleh or Amal, and you want to withdraw, you can go and get your money. So you have control of that money. Okay, but these ones for NSSA, for all the occupational ones, okay, most you don't have that withdrawal. It is normally transferred from one employer to another and so on. So these in non-mandatory plans, Sharia scholars are saying you need to track the amounts that you have saved in this and the income that has been generated on them, and you pay zakat annually if they have reached a point of nisab. That being said, thank you so much for listening. It's almost an hour since I started. Now will be Q&A. Back to Sheikh Nasir, and thank you so much for your patience and attentiveness. Thank you. So Nasir, back to you.
Thank you very much. Brother Khalfan. I think that was very informative, mashallah, even from the comments we are seeing here. And I hope you have gained something from the session. It was 1 hour worth of session, but I know there are a lot of things we have gained from it. So inshallah, for the few minutes we have, we can try and answer some of your questions which have come in, and some of them we received earlier. So our brother Khalfan will assist in answering some of these questions. Please feel free in our chat. If you have any other question, you can share it with us through the chat, then we'll try and answer them. So the first question I think we have is something Brother Khalfan had talked about. What is the difference between defined contribution and defined benefits? I think this is something you had mentioned, but someone wants more elaboration on the two.
Okay, pension schemes are normally designed under these two concepts. A defined contribution is basically you are contributing and your employer contributes, and whatever is invested out of this contribution is what you are going to get. Okay, so the income generated plus what you contributed, the employer contributed, is what you are going to be given in terms of several benefits within within what you have contributed. But defined benefit is not that way. You have as a defined benefit schemes. You have contributed. Your employer contributed. Okay, and this money will be invested, and you are entitled, guaranteed to have certain benefits if you fulfill certain conditions. So for example, they will say there will be maternity benefits. So if you get a child, they'll pay you, say, this much. This is maternity benefits. Okay, if there is sick benefits, then you get this much, irrespective of how much you have contributed, how much you are in how much income has been generated in what you have contributed, irrespective of what you contribute. As long as you are a member and you have contributed for a certain period of time and you have met other conditions, you get certain benefits. It's like guaranteed kind of benefits without considering what actually you have. So somebody would be contributing certain amount for a certain number of years, and they said after that number of years you are qualifying for retirement benefits, okay, which you end up getting as set by them by the by that organizations. And uh, and uh, and some countries use the defined benefits, though this has been proven to be very costly to many governments. They are not sustainable because, as you can see, you have a defined benefits. Okay, as long as you meet certain conditions, irrespective of the fund performance and contributions, you are entitled to get those benefits. Except certain kind of benefits, they are again linked to what you contributed, like the pension benefit. There's a formula that is used to calculate how much you should get as a pension benefit based on how much you contributed, your last pay, projected number of years that you will live, and so on and so forth. There is certain mathematics that is involved there. But other benefits, like as I said, maternity benefits or sickness benefits and so on, you keep getting them, and so on. So that's in brief about the difference between the two. A lot of literature available digitally online. You can explore this further, but that is, as I said, just to give you an insight.
Shukran for that. I believe now it's clear. Then there's a question here. It has repeated several times, and I think I'll just combine them to one. Someone is asking, what advice will you give on a Muslim who has earned pension from a conventional source and is proceeding on retirement? Another question very similar to that, someone was working in a company and they were informed that the funds, their pension fund is being invested in a Sharia compliant source. only later to come and realize it is contrary to that. So what advice would you give to such a person?
Sorry, sorry, I didn't unmute. Okay, so the question on advice for Muslim pensions, somebody who is a Muslim who is about to retire and is in a conventional pension scheme, what would I advise him? The first thing, if you are yet to retire, take note of the responsibility of zakat. Number one, you're gonna be obliged to pay zakat, if at all whatever you have saved and what your employer contributed has reached in a sub level. The second thing, it will be now, uh, 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 this is now the complex part, is looking at your statement to know how much you have received as an income, which is definitely, as I said, most likely will be from non-Sharia compliant sources, and you purify that. Purify, that is takhallus minhu. You give it to charity if you are so sure that it's not Sharia compliant. If we know, you know, some of the income Sharia compliant, you can keep. But if you know is coming out of a larger percentage on non-Sharia compliant, you'll have to purify that. The second thing would be at this moment, as I say, there is no Islamic annuity plan, so you'll need to start what you will do with that lump sum money. Okay, because as I said, you cannot buy annuity plans that are not Islamic for you to get a regular income. So you will have to now think of what kind of investment will you do? Can you do it in an Islamic fund? Can you invest in an Islamic fund if there is? Can you put in a bank account, Sharia compliant bank, for you to get a profit share, which is considered halal? Or shall you buy a property that you can develop and lease it to get rental income? So you need to start thinking around that and see which one will be suitable. But it's good to also speak with the Muslim financial advisors to look at the specifics of your situations. So we have different situations here. I don't want to make it as a financial advisory that applies to everybody. Uh, each situation, each individual would require specific advisory. But these two, I think, is what I would say. You need to be cautious of the zakat component, and you need to start thinking on what will be your next step in terms of where will you take your your pension fund, or what will you do with it, so that it generates revenue for you. Maybe you can go and join the Islamic pension plans that we have in Kenya. Okay, explore it, go explore, see if it works for you. Not every option could be suitable for everybody, so it's good for you to start exploring the options that you have. I've discussed here, shown the case of China, Malaysia, and Kenya, the different options for you to consider funding your retirement. So it's upon you to now explore each options, and maybe with the help of a financial advisor to choose the right one according to your situation. For the other one that you were told this is Sharia compliant, to be done in a Sharia compliant, well, the first obligation though was for you to pay zakat. So that one you had to pay zakat. But now with regards to the income, they say it's Sharia compliant, and then later on to be realized not Sharia compliant. That they have taken a bigger responsibility upon themselves. Those who say it's Sharia compliant, they bear a bigger responsibility on their shoulders. Okay, is there something you can do? Well, if there are data, if there are statements, there are things of the past that we can go back to check in order to purify, fine. But if it's harder to do that, those who had given assurance that this is compliant, they have carried a bigger burden on their shoulders, and perhaps Allah will forgive you, because you can imagine you don't know even where to start in terms of determining now how much from what I received was compliant or not. That's the challenge sometimes you face over there. But the zakat component, you had an obligation to pay. If you didn't know, go back, check how much you received. Try to remember as much as you can, so that you pay zakat due for what you received, if at all it was above nisab. Thank you.
Okay, shukran for that, Brother Khalfan. There is a question here. I think you had already touched on it, but maybe they'll just need more clarification on the issue of NSSF. What is the ruling on utilizing the NSSF pension proceeds after you have received them when you have retired? And something also very similar to that is you have talked about the Sharia compliant pension schemes in Kenya. Would you know uh, the investments they are placed in? So I know maybe this is something which we may not know, but maybe from your own research, what are some of the Sharia investments channels they use to invest with their funds? The two Sharia compliant schemes we have talked about.
For the first question on NSSF, NSSF is normally mandatory in our jurisdiction, be it in Kenya, Tanzania, though I know there could be different ways of contributing to NSSF in different countries, different contribution amount, but they're normally mandatory. As we have seen in the fatwa for mandatory pensions, you have not seen to be part of it because it's a darura for you. You had no control. You can change that. That's law by law, and if you don't, actually, you will be considered violating the laws, and you'll be humiliated basically by being taken to courts and so on for not abiding the law. So you have no sin on that. The sin is on those who are in the management, in the boards for administering this fund, which is not Sharia compliant. This is their sin. Yes, if they are Muslims, they carry a bigger responsibility because they're supposed to reform. As the Prophet said, "Man ra'a minkum munkara falyughayyiruh." But if they're non-Muslim, again, they won't care. And for that, no sin. But again, you have to be careful with what you will receive. So whatever you will receive as advised, you better take what you contributed and what your employer contributed. Whatever is considered to be income in your funds, that one is better for you to purify, to takhallus, and give it to charitable causes. Again, you cannot take it. I understand in countries like Tanzania, okay, and other schemes, you can't withdraw actually. If you have reached 60 years, you get now the pension benefit. Now, what will be the rule? The ruling is keep account. You know how much you contributed. So take in those pensions to the extent of what you contributed and leave the rest. Okay. So you know I've contributed 60 million. Okay. Now they give you monthly 100. So you know 60 million divided by 100, that will take how many months? Okay. So you take as long as you know it will come to an amount you had contributed. That's fine. That's because that's your money, and it was your employer's money who had contributed for you. Beyond that, leave it, because now that one you will be getting income that has been generated from interest-based sources. So that will be one of the other ways to deal with it. And on the investment options for Islamic pension funds, normally they are supposed to invest in a Sharia compliant avenue. And Sharia compliance avenues, they are there, for example, in Islamic banks. They can invest in Islamic banks term deposits, of which they get a profit share. They can invest in halal stocks at Nairobi Stock Exchange. There are some companies which are considered halal companies for you to buy, and of course to enjoy the dividends and the capital gains if they are made. There are also other instruments like exchange traded funds, which are Sharia compliant. Here in Kenya, you can invest. There are again properties okay, investing in properties, which some of these funds again they do. They invest in properties, in prime commercial properties, of which they make they generate rental. So as there are different investment avenues. Each fund manager managing these Islamic funds will have his own investment policy, allocating a certain amount of money to different asset classes. And there is a Sharia board that is always there to guide the fund manager on where to invest and where not to invest in order to be Sharia compliant throughout the operations of the Islamic pension fund. Thank you.
Shukran jazilan for that. I think we'll have two last questions. They are coming so many, but let them keep coming. We'll actually take them and try and reach out to you with a response. But maybe for the last ones, I think which is important, one of them has asked on the issue of zakat. So is it a requirement for it to attain a 1 year from the time you have received? I think the condition of haul, is it from 1 year from the time you have received, or from the time there is no issue of condition of the period? Then I think this one, we'll take it as the last one, is in the issue of pension from the government. I think this it has already been discussed extensively, but someone's just asking, is the whole amount halal? I think let's just clarify that for our listeners, inshallah.
Okay, for the zakat requirement, uh, the issue of howl is not taken into account. Uh, Scholars are saying only nisab will be taken into account at the time you receive it. This is the majority. But there could be other scholars who think or who have given a fatwa that from the time you receive until it completes the howl. But I don't subscribe to that view. The view that I will subscribe and I will advise you to go with is whatever you have received, if it has reached the nisab amount, give 2.5. Because this money, remember, had stayed with somebody. Is considered like a debt that you have recovered. A debt that you were not sure to recover, now you have recovered. Is the money that you are not sure you will get in your lifetime, now you have got it. So the moment you get it, you pay zakat. And this is a fiqh position on a debt and a bad debt. Okay, you are excused not to pay zakat for a bad debt, but when you receive that bad debt, and if it had reached a nisab, you pay zakat on it. You don't stay with that until it completes a howl. So it is treated in that particular manner, that whatever you had contributed, give to the government, whatever, it was like a debt. You were not sure you will get it in your lifetime or not. Now, alhamdulillah, you were alive to receive it. You got your money, so you pay zakat 2.5 out of it. And from that now, after you paid it, whatever now you have, if again it retains the nisab and it completes another howl, you will now pay another zakat in another year. So let us also not here. I'm not saying you pay zakat only once on that money you receive. So because somebody received the money, paid 2.5, and then you kept it in a saving account in a particular Islamic bank, and that money stayed for another year. Okay, you said you will be required to pay zakat again. Okay, because it has completed now a howl, and it is still at the required in a sub level. So that's important for you to understand. Um, the government pension, as I said, there is a fatwa that is there that says if you're in a government pension, then there's a view that is not seen on you and you can take everything. And they base this view that the government is responsible to take care of its citizens. Okay, this is the view of the rationale for those who have said so. But again, as I said, there are others who consider no, you only still take what you contributed and what your employer contributed, and anything above that, don't take it, because we know it is not coming from halal sources. It is coming from investments which are not Sharia compliant. But if your heart rests with the fatwa of those who said government pension, you can take everything, take it, but we because there is a scholarly fatwa on that. But if you go with the other view as well, you will be right. Look at you, and in this point, we normally say we don't follow the easy option. We follow the option that brings us closer to Allah. Okay, because that's what Allah has said us. Okay, has asked us to do, to fear Him, to be conscious of Him. So don't choose these two, one of these two fatwa based on convenience, but based on God consciousness, where you think you are more consciously clear as to what you are taking is right for you, even if it's coming from the government. So that's what I can say. Yeah.
Shukran, Sheikh. I can see questions are still coming, but one of our brothers has raised his hand. Khalid Muhammad, you wanted maybe to contribute or ask something? Assalamu alaikum, Brother Khalid. Okay, maybe he had raised his hand by mistake. So, Sheikh, there are still questions coming, but some of the uh, participants are requesting your contacts. So perhaps we can share it with you. I don't know if it's there in the presentation, but we can put it here in the chat, his email address, so that you can actually reach out to him in case you have uh, any question. Which, yeah, so it's there. It's presented there. So please take the contacts. You can reach out to him. So yeah, several comments. Please give us your contacts, so they're there. And then also people are requesting for a recording. So this will be in our YouTube channel, where you can watch at your convenience, inshallah. So the last bit, Sheikh, maybe we'll take this last one. Is it advisable for an Islamic employer to subscribe to a private pension and remit contributions? This considering the interest aspect that is not allowed in Islam. So as an employer, can you subscribe to a private pension kitty and remit your contributions, considering that it is not allowed, given the nature of the investments?
Well, as I said, a Muslim employer should set the occupational pension scheme compliant in a manner that is compliant to Sharia rules. And the expertise is there. If you don't know how to do it, we can guide you to achieve that and be Sharia compliant. But also, and this brings me to mention the third fund actually, which we have here in Kenya, that is that employers can subscribe to, is the Takaful Umbrella Pension Fund, which is offered by Takaful Insurance of Africa. I'm not sure if they're still offering it, but it was there, and I hope it is still there. So an employer again can join this Takaful Umbrella Pension Fund of TIA, and they will be managing it and make sure everything is Sharia compliant. But if you think that's not an option, then you have a responsibility upon you to make sure whatever you are setting inside your family is Sharia compliant. And if that is still not doable, then you better leave it to NSSF, because we have an option still NSSF to be receiving everything. Okay, but as we know, some employers opted to set up their own schemes. So maybe you can simply leave it to NSSF. NSSF is the government one. You become like now you have not seen on you, because you have to abide by law. The laws forces every employer to have this, to either join NSSF or to have your own scheme and also contribute few amount to NSSF. So if you can't set it on your own, you better go, you leave it to the NSSF. You You contribute an SSF, your employers take it to an SSF, and we have talked about the hukum of it. Okay, but if you want to make sure everything is halal on your end, which is advisable, okay, set a scheme that is Sharia compliant, or join the schemes that are Sharia compliant, which are available in your locality. I hope that answers the question.
No, mashallah. So, Sheikh, I think we can reach there, but someone is in, one of the participants say, please answer this one. I think we are putting you on the spot. She is asking what happened if you have spent the pension money and you are not aware of the issue of zakat, and currently you don't have any money. What is the way forward?
It is daynullah, daynullah wa haqqun yuqda. Is a debt on you. So
Mm.
you should note it down so that if you will not be able to pay it in your lifetime, maybe when you die, your assets before they're inherited, they can be deducted. That is zakat. Though I know there are some Sharia scholars who say that it's not an obligation for the dead person to pay whatever zakat, to deduct from his estate whatever zakat that was not due. But there is also a Sharia opinion that yes, if you died among the debts, as we know, when a Muslim die, debts needs to be deducted first before inheritors gets anything. So in that debts, there is a daynullah. Okay, there are daynun nas wa daynullah wa daynullah wa haq wa yuqda. So you have to note it down, see if in your lifetime you will make money, you pay for it, and if not, you document it, give wasiyah to it, so that the inheritors, before they take the estate and distribute among themselves, they pay it for you. Wallahu alam.
Shukran jazilan. I think it's clear. So thank you, Brother Khalfan, for this presentation. Very informative. Ja'alallahu fi mizani hasanatik. We also thank you, participants, for uh, making some time for this session. I hope you gained something from it. So this is a continuous monthly Sharia awareness session, and inshallah, we will inform you our next topic. I've seen a lot of requests to have this maybe from a deeper level. We'll look at it, inshallah, get back to you. As for the recording, like we said, we'll have it on our YouTube channel anytime you can watch at your convenience. So thank you very much on behalf of the of my team, Gulf African Bank, and also Alabrar Consultant. We thank you for your attendance and we wish you Jumu'ah Mubarakah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.